sometimes I think the leaders get too much credit when really it's like that first follower is so important too.
So important.
You know? And like the reason I know we're going to be successful is because I know that the world is ready to accept the truth that success is a team sport. You feel me? Like I think the mentality of coming from an inner city neighborhood is like just me by myself. I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like for real, that's such a defeated mindset already. Like if you think that you got to do everything, then like there's no way you can compete with people who are playing a team sport. You know? And that's why our whole thing is independent doesn't mean alone.
And I love that.
You know?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Change What We Normalize podcast, where we're breaking down stigmas and changing norms and having powerful conversations to elevate our mental health, build resilience, and really truly live in our purpose. And today, I have an incredible guest with me. This brother truly inspires me. I promise you, y'all are in for a treat. But I'm going to give him his flowers really quick before we start. I think it's super important. This gentleman is the co-founder and CCO of Rec Philly, board member, Urban Creators, Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient, and I'm sure it's a lot more stuff. And honestly, arguably, one of the best beards in Philadelphia. My guy, Will Toms.
Hey, peace, brother. Peace.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming, man. I appreciate it. I know your time is extremely valuable, man. I'm super inspired by not just the work that you do, but the person that you are. Just truly living in that expression of who you are. And I want you to receive those flowers, because I feel like a lot of times as men, especially black men, we don't allow ourselves to receive the love, the accolades, and different things like that. I know that was challenging for me. So I just wanted to give you a moment to receive that, man.
You know what? I appreciate those words and also that moment, you know, because I definitely agree. I could have easily been like, look, man, I'm just trying to get like you, bro.
Yo, and
you
that's
feel
what
me?
We send it right back.
We
It's
deflect,
like, no, I'm trying
right.
to give it to you, and it's like, I'm just trying to be on your level. And it's like, yo,
But now I'll let that land, bro.
Just hold this, man.
Let
But
that
no,
land.
I appreciate you, man. And I actually want to do something different this time around, because I usually get real serious, like real early. But I want to have a little fun really quickly.
Okay,
and I want to ask you, man, what's your favorite movie and why?
Wow. What's my favorite movie? So I really love films. You know, I studied media in college, so like I've always just had a deep love of it. So now, like, putting me on the spot to think about my very favorite film. Ooh.
And that's tough to do.
Yeah. So look, I mean, just because it's fresh in my mind, I think the piece of cinema that's like really with me right now is the Kanye documentary. You know, that John just dropped, and I think that, you know, I'm not gonna give it like the best film I've ever seen, but that's the one that's most meaningful to me right now. You know, it's been inspiring me for the last 72 hours since I've watched it.
Likewise.
And there's been so many messages that have just been replaying for me. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say that one. You know.
I like that. That's a great choice. I wasn't going to say that one, but that's a fire choice. For me, it's a mix between, it is The Wood. I love The Wood. I don't know why I love
a classic.
The Wood. It's a classic.
It's a classic.
And my wife hates that every time it comes on TV, I stop and watch. I love The Wood. But The Pursuit of Happiness, man.
That's another great one.
That is by far probably my favorite movie. The storyline, what it truly means.
Yeah.
It just, I go back to it often.
Yeah.
At least, you know, once every 2 to 3 months, I just watch it and just take so much and gather so much from it. So that's it for me. But The Wood is a classic. The Wood.
That's definitely The Wood. I mean, then I feel like if we're gonna just talk about black classics, got their Love and Basketball in there.
That's a black classic, and
like,
I had to talk with somebody about that the other day. I'm like, yo, what's the best black love classic? And you know, obviously Love and Basketball. You have a bunch of different things, but I thought my life was gonna pan out like Love and Basketball, bro.
I think we all did.
Like, I was playing ball, and I'm like, yo, this is how it's going to look. Like, this is the girl I'm going to meet. And, that didn't happen. that didn't happen at all. But, that was the love story that I wanted my life to look like. I'm going to make it. I'm going to have this beautiful wife. She's going to be a hooper.
Right.
And it just didn't pan out that way. So, I do got one more. I got one more thing for you. One more question.
Let's do it.
While we're kind of hitting on this. What's a food that you can't live without?
Spinach.
Really?
Yeah.
That's I was not expecting that.
It's random, bro, but I don't know. I just really, really love spinach in all of its forms. Like, I'll bust down a spinach salad raw. I'll cook it up, saute it, but like spinach and mushrooms. And it's funny because like when I was a kid, I didn't like either of those foods. But now, like,
spinach and mushrooms.
yeah, that's my
No,
thing.
I love spinach and mushrooms. It
Yeah.
that was not what I was thinking. Wow.
You know, and it's good for you, right?
I feel
Like,
terrible
get that
now. I
green in
feel
your
horrible.
life. What you thought I was gonna say? Like cheesesteaks?
No, what? No, I didn't want to be typical like that. I mean, if the shoe fits, but no. And now I'm just thinking, like, for me, I was like, yo, it's like baked mac and cheese and like pizza. I'm like, he said spinach. I feel terrible.
I love it, bro.
But
that's just for me, man. You know, spinach. I'm a nerd. I like sushi. You feel me?
I love
like,
sushi. I love sushi.
That's my
My
vibe.
boy got me into it. Maybe it's like 5-6 years ago, and I love sushi. I love what is it, shrimp tempura.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not like sushi. It's kind of
Right.
fried, but
That's like, you know, that's
yeah,
beginner
that's
sushi.
for the beginner sushi. You
No
know
doubt.
what I mean? That's the beginner side. But yeah, no, I love those things. But let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into it. There's a quote that I love, right? And I always start this way because I truly believe that your story is about you, but it's not for you, right? It's for somebody else.
I feel that.
So I want to kind of dive deep into that to really find out more about Will Thomas.
Sure.
Obviously, you know, critically acclaimed. You're doing incredible things. You're everywhere. Shoot, you're almost the face of Philly, in my opinion. Like, we see you everywhere doing amazing stuff, and it's very admirable. But you
Thanks,
weren't
man.
always in this place, obviously.
Not at all.
And I think it's important for especially the up-and-coming entrepreneur, the individual looking to pursue their dreams, but they keep hitting these brick walls and they don't have anyone around them that inspires them or encourages them.
Yeah.
To hear people who have, I would say, made it, but I know you're still going, so I don't want to cap you off like, hey, you made it,
No
but it's
doubt.
like you've hit a certain level that a lot of people just don't.
Sure.
So I think it's important to share those stories. So I want to dive deep. You know, tell us a little bit about, you know, young Will.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And I even love the way you frame that up, right? Because it's like that whole idea of like made it is that's all perception, you know?
Right.
And what's wild is I think I am getting to this place where like, you know, people have a lot of respect for what I've accomplished so far and what our team has been able to accomplish. But like, you know, in my mind, as the entrepreneur that I am, I'm just getting started. You feel me? Like a decade in and I'm still just like, cool, the warm up has started and now it's time to really like build the thing, you know? But that's just the perspective of it. But yeah, I mean, you know, throwing back to like young Will, you know, I think I've always been the same person in the sense of like, I've always been a really curious person. I've always been like a tinkerer, you know what I mean? I've always been a nerd and always wanted to understand systems, right? So for example, like growing up, I was the kid that like for Christmas, if my grandmother got me that like remote control RC car, I was happy and I loved it. But she knew that I was about to ask for the screwdriver because I wanted to take it apart because it wasn't as fun for me to just play with it. I wanted to understand why it worked, right? And I think like that curiosity has only just evolved into trying to understand bigger systems and more impactful systems. And then how could I design things to be able to create new outcomes, you know? So my upbringing was, so I was raised by my grandmother, you know, since a very young age. You know, I grew up in the Germantown section of the city. And, you know, really young, I was exposed to the same things that a lot of young black men, especially if you're from a city like Philadelphia, are exposed to, which is, you know, I'm looking up to my family members, my dad and my uncles, and, you know, they running around the streets. You know, it was a lot of trying to make ends meet however they could, a lot of the flashy street lifestyle. You know, I grew up on a block where, although we were coming from a challenging neighborhood, we never locked our doors, you feel me? Because it was just like a energy of, there was so much respect for my family and our neighborhood that it was very normalized for them to live the lifestyles they live, but the recourse never came home, if you feel me, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of watching that, but then also as things kind of shifted, you know, I've seen, you know, violence at a young age with the passing of my uncle. He was murdered at 16 and, you know, watched my mom, you know, navigate a drug addiction. So there was a lot of that. But simultaneously, even though that's happening and my dad and my uncles are getting incarcerated, I grew up with a ton of love. You know what I mean? Like my grandmother has been one of those super consistent presences in my life. And I think even one of the lessons I've been reflecting on from watching the Kanye West documentary is like seeing his relationship to his mother, to Donda West. I'm like, yo, that's my G-Ma right there.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like,
You
I
felt
get that. And so like that's what a lot of my childhood was. It was her and I, and my grandmother, when I was growing up, she's been a minister for most of my life, so like I also have that very nuanced experience of being a preacher's kid.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, always a thinker, always kind of interested in things beyond my years, as my grandmother would say. I've always been like an old soul, but really from a place of always wanting to understand. And if I could understand, how do I improve on what's happening? And how do I do that in service of the people around me, know?
I don't want to cut you off, but where did that part come from? The service part of like, how do I...
Yeah.
As as children, as teens, that isn't something natural. Usually somebody is exemplifying that for us, or
straight up
something around us that's making us want to go beyond where we are and expand and help other people. So where did that...
So I'll say two things, and I think you'll appreciate this just knowing the human you are. So the first part is my grandmother exemplified that. My grandmother was one of those people like... we grew up and we didn't have money, right? But like I always tell my friends, like I didn't know that we were actually broke until I went to college, right? And that was just because of the character of my grandmother. She was the person who was always going to go out of her way to make ends meet. She was the person who would give you the shirt off her back, you know what I mean? Like, so when I was growing up, I'm watching her as a minister, but over time I could see she didn't even really want to be in the pulpit, because her ministry was in service. She was like, I want to be where the people are at. So outreach ministries, I grew up feeding the homeless as a kid regularly, like, and from a place where it was like, yo, like we feeding the homeless and like we still figuring out at home. But like, It was never a second thought when she said, all right, it's time for outreach ministry. I'm going to find whatever old kicks I know I'm not going to wear and I'm donating them. You know what I mean? So I think I grew that heart for service from her. And then simultaneously, what I learned growing up is like when you navigate some of the things that I've navigated as a young person with my parents and things like that, navigating abandonment issues, I think it shaped me to have a very keen presence on my impact on other people. And when I saw everything my grandmother was navigating with my dad and my uncles, right? She lost 3 sons to the streets before I was even, you know what I mean? One was murdered, and all of the rest of the 3 of them spent at least 10 years in prison, right? So I grew up from a space of like, I don't want to be a burden, right? So how can I make myself valuable? How can I serve? And that paired with watching her do it at such a high level and so consistently, I was like, yo, this is where happiness comes from.
Right.
You know?
Right. And it's like that isn't taught, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, where does true success and where does happiness and where do these things come from? And we've gotten in such a way with society where it's like chase the thing, chase the stuff, chase the status. And it's like it's never fulfilling. And as you were sharing that, it made me think, I don't know if you read Will Smith's memoir.
No, not yet.
So it's fire.
I started, but I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
It's one of the longest books I've ever read, but it's fire. It's super long, but it's one of those things where it's like a page turn. Like you can't put it down once you get into it. But he talks about his grandmother in that way of service. Like that's who exemplified that for him.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like she was like extreme too. She would have homeless people in the house washing them in their tub.
Wow.
And he learned that part of service and love from her, through the example. Yeah. Not necessarily her saying it. And what I'm hearing you say is like you learned through the example.
I watched it.
That's incredible to me, and it's powerful because that's something we can pass on.
Yeah.
I always tell people, it's like, hey, when I have children, I'm going to teach them lessons. I'm going to have talks with them. Mm-hmm. But how I live my life is what they're going to remember.
Yeah.
That's what's going to really shape them.
You know what's interesting? So just hearing you reflect that back to me, one of the things that I think like molded my perspective around service was no matter what we had, like from a materialistic space, my grandmother always had a reverence from the people around her. And it almost made us feel as if like we were in a better situation than the people we were around. But we was experiencing the same exact things as they were. But because of the way my grandmother always makes people feel, people always wanted to put her on that pedestal just because they assume like, yo, you showing up, you always got enough for everyone beyond yourself. So you must have something, right? And I'm just now kind of reflecting on that. That's just the way you carry it when you have that joy. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes it's like you say people want to chase the things, but really we should be more so thinking about like, what are the feelings that I want to manifest in my life?
That's it.
That's
it right there. And it's so good that you say that. At the end of every year, me and my lady, we reflect, right? And obviously people have their resolutions and things like that. So we sit and we say, what's one thing we want to just release, like get rid of for the upcoming year? And she'll share her stuff. I said, I want to get rid of fear for 2022. Like I want to release fear from, and it's not even fear of like failure. It's like fear of succeeding almost in a sense.
Which is, I think, way more common actually.
Yeah, absolutely, way more common. And just speaking on that, I sat down and I reflected. I was like, all right, what were the times last year where I felt the most joy? So I started gathering pictures in my mind. I started to write things down. I was like, that's what success feels like to me. How do I create more of that moving forward in 2022 and 2023, God willing, and things like that? And it's like, man, that's such a better, almost like a target to aim for.
Right.
It's like, what are the things that brought me the most joy? It was real simple moments. It was me, having my closest friends at my house with their ladies. We got some wine, some food, and we laughing for 5-6 hours, just talking. I'm like, how do I create more of that? How do I get more of my time back to do that?
Right.
And I think, man, when you chase the feeling, that's really where it's at right there, that feeling. And man, you really brought some stuff up that I believe is going to free some people because again, they see the things, and I have no problem with things. We all have nice things.
Right.
My lady loves nice things.
Right. I want more nice things. Actually.
I want more nice things.
Yeah.
But I don't want them for the reason of having the nice things.
Exactly.
It's all a part of that process, right? And chasing that feeling, man. You really got me thinking about that when you said, I'm just like, man, the feeling is where it's at. And I can only imagine the feeling that you have when you walk into a space like this that was once just a concept.
It's crazy. I still trip out sometimes.
I was going to ask you that because I remember when we first had lunch, we were walking from some spot you brought me to. Great food, by the way.
Munchies. Shout out Munchies. Yo, they hold me down. They hold me down
Great
for sure.
food, but we were walking over here, and it had the sign for rec outside. And I'm just like, how does that feel? You know what I mean? What's that feeling like?
How do I describe it? I mean, listen, bro, in the mornings that I come here and, I get here before everyone else and I'm still wearing my do-rag and I walk, you feel me? And I walk in and I look at the space and I turn on the lights. Like, it still lights me up again because I'm in this in-between phase where it's like, it's no longer just the vision, right? The vision has been manifested and now other people get to walk around the vision that I once had, right? That alone is like wild. But also, the belief of, God's not finished yet, right? We're just now starting. And like, in my mind, it's about how do we scale up so more people can experience that feeling? Because I think, the space itself, right, is very nice, which I'm very grateful for. But I don't think, having this kind of podcast equipment and these cameras are what makes Rec special. I would like to believe that it's more of how people feel when they're in the space and when they interact with other people here. We fostered that. So for me, now that we've like started to form that and shape that, I just get excited about how we can go and share and spread that because I know that there's like so many people that are going to be helped mainly from just experiencing the reality that like, yo, there's mad love in this space.
Mad love.
And I feel it. You know what I mean? In a real genuine way. And I know that there's a lot of our members who this may be the space that they feel most free in all the places in their life. So if I can expand that, that's what gets me excited, So I balance it. I'm like, whoa, I can't believe we're here. But also I'm like, there's a responsibility for don't let up now, right? Keep going because we're just starting.
And that's powerful. Just thinking about the space. I was talking to somebody about this last week at Rec, and I was talking about community. And I was like, yo, it's dope, but community isn't what people think it is. Like, community isn't the space.
Right, nope.
It's almost like Will has established real estate in everyone's mind. When I'm not at Rec, I'm still part of the community.
Facts.
If I'm in Jersey, if I'm in another state, it's like I'm still within this community. And you've built that, not just through the establishment, but through the feeling in which you've created.
Right, thank you.
I really want people to like really understand that. Like, while the space is dope, it's like, who knows? You may move to another space. This may expand to something else. Like, it's going to be ever evolving.
Absolutely. And
it's the feeling.
And again, like, we didn't start the community here at 9th and Market.
There we go.
Right? The community started at 9th and Dolphin in a way less sexy space than this one, right? Like, we were in a part of the neighborhood that literally, they called the Badlands. You feel me? Like, it's North Philly, but like, that's the part of the neighborhood that we were in. And it was definitely one of those places where like, when people would walk up the 4 flights of stairs to get to rec, and they would watch, a panel with no heat in the winter or no AC in the summer, and they sweating trying to get the information, and we had real industry people coming in. Like, to me, that was the purest form of community, and that's what gave us the confidence that we could scale up and do it bigger, because it was like, if we all down to sit through this on a Friday night and learn, it was like, yo, imagine what can happen when we can really do that right. But I'm really proud that our community started in that way, because it wasn't about the shiny things. It was about us being important together. You know what I mean?
That's important. It makes me think, what type of individual would be willing to be a part of that community? Like you said, come up to four flights, be in a scorching heat or the cold, and it's like, where's your mind at that you want to be involved in this? And again, you've created a feeling.
Word.
Right? People do things because they feel like it.
Facts.
That's the reality. It's like we really don't do things we don't feel like, for the most part.
Wow.
And you've created that, man. And again, I know I gave you your flowers earlier, but I think it's important to just continue to affirm you in that way.
Thank you, bro.
Because that's something, again, that isn't taught.
See, look, I'm a accept that, and I'm also gonna say the one word I would challenge is, like, I don't know if I can take credit for creating the feeling. The older I get and the more I deepen my relationship to my grandmother, I just pass along the feeling that she gave me. You feel me? Like before there was rec at 9th and Market, before there was rec at 9th and Dolphin, like, I'll never forget, my grandmother built this gazebo in our backyard when I was in high school. And she built that specifically because me, Dave, and Leonzo would always be in the crib dancing. We'd be on the tables doing whatever we wanted to do, because that was our safe space, right? So one time she was like, yo, I'm going to invest in this gazebo, right, in our backyard, because I know you need a space to be, and I know that our living room isn't even the fullest space for you. And like, she told me one time, she goes, yo, as kids, I'm not mad at y'all for dancing on my tables, because that's what we was doing. We was getting wild. Because she goes, I understand young people, and young people need to bounce the ball. But I can't yell at you for bouncing the ball in my house if I don't also have a place for you to bounce the ball. And that was it. And from there, it was like that gazebo was the place that we would be our best selves, incubate our ideas, talk about the future visions. And now, honestly, the gazebo just morphed into that 9th and Dolphin space, and it's morphed here. And like, if I'm being real, it's just like, I now just want to pass on that feeling that she gave us, because I know what that meant for me. In the same way that, like, again, when I reflect and I watch Donda, yo, it makes sense why Kanye believes in himself so much.
Yes.
Because Donda believed in him that much.
I'm talking, like, it was undeniable to believe that you can almost feel the energy through the TV. I was at the 100%. House, like, man, I feel like she believed in me too.
Yeah.
Like, the way that she was affirming him, and you can feel the embrace. Yeah. It's like, yo, no wonder he was who he was.
Yeah.
And imagine, I'm just thinking of Philly right here. Imagine all of the young kids, the young teens, growing up in tough situations, if they had someone who believed in them like that.
Yeah, bro. And it gets deeper, right? It's Donda, but also Cootie.
Yes.
Cootie stopped his career to say, I'm going to go and just document what you're doing, because I see the greatness, and I'm going to affirm that. So, like, to wake up as Kanye West and have, Donda, but also have Cootie, who's like, here, like, this is history in real time, and I'm here to record it for you. Like, sometimes I think the leaders get too much credit, when really it's like, that first follower is so important too.
So important.
And like, the reason I know we're going to be successful is because I know that the world is ready to accept the truth that success is a team sport. You feel me? Like, I think the mentality of coming from an inner city neighborhood is like, just me by myself, I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, for real, that's such a defeated mindset already. Like, if you think that you got to do everything, then like, there's no way you can compete with people who are playing a team sport. And that's why our whole thing is independent doesn't mean alone.
And I love that.
I
love that. That right there just yells community.
Yeah.
Just yells like, yo, I just want to support you and whatever you got going on. I love your mission.
Yeah.
Yo, Mike, you trying to be like Cootie? I'm on like that? Like, you down for the vision? You drop everything? I know you got life and everything like that, but I mean, where we going is really important right now.
Listen,
Nah, that's powerful, man. And the whole independent doesn't mean alone thing it's such a statement, man. Because like you said, we're in that age where, and social media portrays this a lot, or people portray this on social media a lot, that they're getting it alone.
Right.
that I'm doing it, but I'm out the mud by myself.
Self-made.
And it's like, it's just, that term, it don't sit right with me.
It's just like, it's not true. Like, nobody is self-made. Like, even if you made a lot of money, somebody had to give it to you. Even if that was the customer, you feel me? But it's like, you didn't do it by yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's just so exciting to know that, like, there's a real mindset shift that's happening where people are understanding, yo, we don't got to compete when we can collaborate. You know what I mean? And, like, I think on the surface, it's going to change how people create and how we interact. But I think that's, like, more representative of, like, there's a spiritual shift happening.
Right.
Where people are realizing, yo, we're more similar than we are different.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. So I want to shift really quick because it's really important that we talk about this. First and foremost, shout out to G-Mom. She's dope. She's dope. Shout out
She the
to
truth,
you.
bro.
You the truth.
She the
You
truth.
reason we here.
She the
I want to
truth.
put that out there. Give you your flowers. I want to talk about the mental and emotional challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, while the story is incredible, it's like there's obviously some times where it's like just extreme stress. Now, I believe this in you. I believe that you're an extremely confident person where it's like, I knew we would maybe not get to this building, this place, but I knew that this was going to pop up. I knew that this would work over time, and I'm not going to quit on it. But what did those dark times look like? I believe everybody has, maybe they're not extreme,
Sure.
but I believe everybody has those moments of like just stress.
Yeah. Look, man, I mean, there are plenty. You feel me? Like, I'm like, damn, where you want me to go with this? Because, you know, it's, you know what? Here, let me paint a picture for you, right? What I think, there's a lot of challenging times I can point to externally, right? Like, you know, part of my story, I know what it feels like to be incarcerated, you know what I mean? I know what it feels like to, you know, just not know where the next meal's coming from, you know, almost by choice because I quit the job that I had. It was a really nice full-time job, but I quit that to do the dream. So, like, there's that stuff. But honestly, I think some of the hardest times for me, like, spiritually and emotionally, where when I was earlier in the journey of rec, where I had quit the job, living out of the warehouse and nobody knows about it, you know what I mean? Because I'm pseudo clean homeless, right? And like literally right around the corner from where the rec spot is in the same building, right? Wow. Everyone goes home at the end of our events and I just walk around the corner and go to sleep on the couch, right? And I didn't have the pride to share that with anyone. So like the only people that knew were like my business partner, Dave, my boy Leonzo, who was there with me for 2 of those 3 or 4 years.
It was that long?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, Rec had a presence in the warehouse for, I want to say, about 5 years in total. 3.5 of those, I lived there. Like, that's how we even, like, started a relationship with that window factory. I knew a bull who had a studio there. I realized that the landlords didn't care about nothing. We could build a studio. And then to lower my expenses, me and Leonzo were like, yo, let's just live here. And we weren't supposed to live there. But anyway, so in that time frame, especially early on when we're throwing parties, where we're seeing all the signs of outward success, right? People are like, oh, there's a thing happening. This is dope. I was getting all those accolades at the time where I really wasn't respecting myself. I wasn't treating my body right. I wasn't respecting my emotions. I was literally like abusing myself by pushing myself to the limit in service of the further out dream. And there's just something crazy that happens when like you're doing that to yourself for a long period of time and people are clapping for you.
That's a crazy feeling, right?
It's a wild feeling.
Like the dichotomy is wild.
Right? Because it's like on the outside, you're doing a lot of things right.
Yeah.
But there's no one close enough to be like, but you're not doing it right, though. Right. And that was a tough journey to go through, right? Because you're like, well, it's working, so keep doing it. But you're also like, yo, this ain't sustainable. And after that was when things started to hit the fan where I could be like, yo, like, I respect that if I want my business to grow, I've got to grow first. You know?
That's a word.
And I learned that John C. Maxwell, he calls it the law of the lid. He goes, no business will ever be greater than the leader's level of leadership. So that's when I started saying, all right, cool, now it's time to really go inside. Let's do the therapy, you know, let's build the men's group. Let's do the things to get right, you know? And then once that happened, you know, I started rebuilding my relationship with my pop and being more present with my G-Ma. That's when things started to go. But in that middle, sheesh.
In the middle is where it's and was that difficult for you to kind of make that transition and like, yo, let me start taking care of me?
100%. Because then you have to fight the friction, right? Because again, there's the, so Dave, my co-founder, and I have been friends since high school, right? So we have a really beautiful relationship that once we started a business together, we started our first business together at like 21 years old. And like the culture that we had built was, Friday nights at midnight, we were in peak work time in the basement crunching on the computer going ham. And we loved that. Like it was almost an inside joke, like, yo, Friday nights, people out here getting drunk, we getting turned up, like making things happen. So when you do a lot of great things in that culture of work, and then you start to say, wait, this ain't sustainable, let me pivot, there's the judgment that starts to come up. Even if it's not from the other person, from yourself, right? Of like, all right, I've been here all day, 12 hours, it's 9:30 p.m. I think I should go home and rest. And I look at Dave, he's still sending emails. I'm like, I owe it to him to keep going. So that transition gets harder because you're not in a healthy environment, and sometimes that unhealthy environment doesn't have what you need to then get healthy. You have to remove yourself from it to then bring healthy culture back into it. So there was a lot of friction there, right? And like, there's that. There's like the other things people don't think about in entrepreneurship of like, I built a team of people that for the first maybe 2-3 years of the business were largely volunteers and interns. And like, it's one thing to have the sacrifice of, okay, if we didn't hit our revenue numbers, I got to do something different this month. I got to figure it out. It's a whole different thing when you have to look your business partner in the face and say, yo, if we don't get this deal done today, we don't make payroll. That's a whole different kind of pressure.
Different kind of anxiety right there.
And that's a real thing, bro. We're at a point now we have over 20 full-time employees. That's 20 people who are like, yo, I'm counting on this check, right? So your decisions got to add up to me being able to count on this check.
Does that ever feel like too much pressure at times? Or are you at a point where it's like the system's set up where it's like, okay?
I think the system is set up in a way that our processes put us in the best position to be successful. But I'd be lying if I said the stress isn't still there. Because it is, like it 100% is. But I think you learn to navigate stress differently, especially, as you get to do things like therapy and like really get to like the heart of, your emotional being.
That environment and really, self-care, obviously, and things like that. But that's really, really important. I'm really glad that you shared that. Because you said, you were showing up, you were doing what you had to do, but it's like, to what extent? Because you burned out. And I have a personal testimony. I ended up in the emergency room, this is probably 2 years ago now, to this point, passed out in my bathroom, fell out on the floor, all these different things happened, and hello.
The funny part is she's getting selfies off.
Hey, look, I'm happy for it. And I love that. I love that that's part of the podcast,
Facts.
actually. But what happened was...
She didn't see us until this very moment. That is so great, yo.
Get your selfie off, right. Girl. Come on. Come on. I love it. But no, I passed out in my restroom. And it was wild because they took me to the emergency room. My wife took me there. They're running, COVID tests, obviously. They're running flu tests.
Yeah. It was
exhaustion. Ends up coming back. Exhaustion.
Yo, I've been there, bro.
Exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that hit me like, yo, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
1 minute I'm in the bathroom. Next minute I'm waking up. I'm at the hospital. It's like, what happened? It was like, yo, burnout.
Yep.
And I remember
so
talking
scary
to my lady about that. Yeah, so scary, bro. But as a man, especially as a black man, I realized that we work ourselves into dust. Like we grind. We say grind. We grind ourselves into dust. Yep. I come from the blue-collar mentality where it's work.
Yep.
Bring the money home, back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where the father figure is present, but he's not present.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
It's just work. And I'm like, man, when do we start to focus on our health? Because as we know, men, especially black men, we die, at a significant rate earlier, just years earlier. I think it was almost even 10 to 20 years earlier than women. Even when you see an older couple,
right,
you usually see the man on the cane, hurting, limping, and the wife trying to take care.
That's facts.
And I remember, and this is when it really hit me. My lady was coming in from work, so obviously she I'm doing entrepreneurial things, so my schedule is all over the place, right? And she works as a therapist.
Oh, dope.
She comes in
That's
one
beautiful.
day. Yeah, it's dope. It's kind of dope how it lined up. And she does incredible work for addictions counseling.
Nice.
So she's coming in from work one day. I'm resting like midday because I've been up since 4:30. I did all I had to do. I was like, let me take an hour nap. I'm on the couch. I hear the front door because we have a keypad.
Yeah.
So I hear doot, doot, doot,
You
doot.
jumped up.
Boom.
Right.
Boom. I jumped up. Boom.
Yeah.
Hit the kitchen. Doot, 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 doot.
Man, you
And I was
speaking it.
like, yo, what? Why did my body just do that? And I realized I was just programmed in that way to try to just work, and never take care of myself. So
And you probably felt guilty for
I
taking
felt
a nap.
guilty, but I couldn't understand why. And I talked to her about it, and she was like, take a nap.
Right.
I was like, yeah, but I gotta.
Yeah, and
I
that's-
don't want you to think. And she's like, I don't.
Yeah, but
Like,
and
take a
that's
nap.
it's so deep, bro. Like the conditioning is so real. Like there's a whole narrative around like the lazy black man, right? That I think sometimes like we internalize if we're not careful. Like when I think about like the Jay-Z the story of OJ.
Yeah.
And
I
like
love that.
and like when you think about like do you remember the music video, what it looks like?
Yep.
Like that whole caricature I think comes from a time in American culture where like the propaganda was you're gonna see a lazy watermelon eating ass nigga.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like whether or not that was true, because like black people have been doing tons of labor for our entire existence,
saying,
right? But that to be the propaganda, and then it internalized where like even like your partner, you don't want to let her see you in a relaxed state. You know what I'm saying? Like that's real, and I think a lot of us experience that. So it's important to just call that out and name it, and then realize that like, yo, taking your foot off the gas is not something that like you get to do in celebration. You know, like it actually has to be a part of the routine.
It has to be a part of routine. And she freed me when she said that, and it allowed me to sit in a space where it's like, yo, it's okay to rest. Is actually productive for me.
Yes,
I can get
had to
more
learn
done
that.
in a 4-hour window than I can in probably like a 10-hour window if I'm focused for the 4 hours.
Straight up.
So that's how I've
Straight
kind of structured my schedule and things like that. But it really freed me up to really just rest my mind and not feel guilty and feel shame and like I'm this lazy bum. She's like, dude, you're probably the hardest working person I know. Like, relax.
Yeah.
You know, especially after that scare with the emergency room. So I want to ask you, what does self-care look like for you today?
Yeah, I think that's still evolving. But, you know, what does that look like? I'm way less on edge about my rest these days, right? Where like I'm more willing to be like, all right, cool. I need to chill on this Sunday. Is that perfect? No. Am I still agreeing to do things on my Sunday when I be like, I'm not gonna do nothing on Sunday, and then people hit me up and I be like, oh, you need me? All right, bet I'm gonna do that. But there are things that I've brought into the fold where like I discovered the bathhouse recently. Oh, it's like a big ass place, pools, saunas, and basically you just like chill for hours, and then you take turns going into one of 5 or 6 different saunas. Everyone has a different temperature and humidity. It's a fire experience.
Really?
So like that's a part of my life. I try to get there every couple months. Like meditation is a part of my daily thing.
Nice.
And then the newest one that I really loved is travel.
Travel is huge.
Yeah. For the first 7 years as an entrepreneur, I never took a vacation. And right when the pandemic hit a couple years ago, a friend of mine, a fellow member, Carlos, invited me to Puerto Rico. And that ignited my whole like, oh, wait, travel and what I used to think was luxury is actually not luxury. Like I need that as a creative person to like fill my spirit. I got to see new things. I got to experience new things. And that's what self-care is like for me now.
Not to cut you off, and I'm thinking like sometimes it isn't just sitting and studying.
Nah.
It's getting out and experiencing life.
Yeah, because I've already done that. Like that's so a part of just who I am. Like I enjoy reading. I enjoyed reading as a kid. You know, when I'm on YouTube, I'm usually watching something of I'm gonna learn from the person who's speaking, right? Like that's just how I'm built. So I had to kind of interrupt that and be like, yo, but also like I remember the other day I put on like 101. You remember that show, 101?
That was a classic too.
Well, I found that it was on Netflix. So I'm like, you know what? We should just watch this. Because I know if I don't do that, my brain is going to be like, oh, well, let me go watch the founders of Morning Brew who built a really successful media business.
Right.
Let me just listen and learn and adapt and, you know. But I have to turn my brain off, bro, because if not, it, you know.
Overload. And I do the same thing because it's like my wife always jokes me because we have these TVs around with the Roku and things like that. So I'm always going on there just to go to YouTube.
Right.
And I got a whole playlist of different videos and some motivational stuff and stuff I'm trying to learn and other things. And it's like, yo, when do you just relax? So I catch myself watching A Different World a lot. So I go back to A Different World. I watch a lot of Fresh Prince. I started going back to Martin seasons.
Yeah.
And just for, a little bit of time, just, let your brain relax, bro.
Yeah.
Like, try not to learn too much right now.
Right.
Like, just enjoy the things you used to enjoy, because you get one life, and I believe we get so serious, especially for the entrepreneur,
right,
where we don't enjoy the life that we have. We're constantly like, I'm building the life I want. It's like you haven't enjoyed anything. Right. What are we really building right now?
Like,
you know what I mean?
And especially if you're in the space of service, and like Sai and I were having a conversation about this like this morning, and it was just like, yo, like, you also have to remember at some point you get to do things for you. Like, there was a whole never not working phase I went through, and a lot of it was like, because I have this team who's counting on me and this and that, I felt like I had to never not be working. So even if I'm out at a bar having a drink, I want to have a drink with someone who I know we could be a collaborator at some point, right? Like, everything had to somehow tie back. But at some point, you got to be like, all right, cool, but like, you did all the things with discipline and stuff, but like, what did you do for you? You show up for everyone else, but like, how do you show up for you? What are the things you do that literally is not attached to anybody's happiness but your own? And that's still something I'm newly asking those questions.
Yeah. But it's good that you're asking.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't.
Right.
Like you said, people just burn out. And I heard once, this is actually like last week, I was listening to a podcast that says we're loyal to other people, but we aren't loyal to ourselves or our purpose. And it's like,
facts,
I remember asking the kids, I'm doing my program, I'm like, what are some qualities you look for in a friend? Everybody put loyal. I said, what's loyal? They're like, when somebody kind of down with you, you know what I mean? Where, they got your back. And I was like, cool. And then I asked them about being loyal to themselves and taking care of themselves. And it was like, oh, well, I never really thought about it.
So
and I'm
real,
like,
bro.
man, that's really backwards.
That's
We had
crazy.
never really thought about it, of just prioritizing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this talk with parents all the time. I'm like, hey, who's your number one priority?
Yeah.
The cliche. My kids.
Right.
My husband. I'm like, you're the priority.
Yeah, high key, that's trash.
It's trash.
Yeah, you think it comes from a good heart space, but in
doesn't.
practicality, it isn't what's best for the child.
Right. It isn't what's best, because you're not giving them the best version of you in that moment.
Right.
You're giving them a much lesser version because you haven't taken care of yourself.
That's facts.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to pour into yourself first. And I know that they hear that over, pour into yourself so you can pour into others, but cliches are real, man.
Yeah, they come from somewhere.
They come from somewhere. And I think it's important, especially in this space of entrepreneurship, for artists, creatives, to take care of you first. And then create and pour on us from your overflow.
Mm-hmm.
That's super, super important.
And you know what I think is also a part of that? Creating healthy boundaries. I think that's something that I struggled with early on, and like I feel a lot of people do as well. And I think, in the same vein of what you said of like, people are saying, the most important thing in a friend is loyalty. I used to hear amongst a lot of creatives early on in their career this idea of like, I'm going to do this with my day ones, right? No new friends.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I get where it's coming from in the heart space, right? But it's like, should you be more loyal to the person who happened to, be from 3 blocks down from your grandmom's crib at this time? Or should you be loyal to the shared vision that you guys have?
There we go.
And if the shared vision ever changes, you have to be loyal enough to the vision to say, I'm willing to change my environment to make the vision a reality.
Right.
And that's where I think that whole day ones thing gets ugly, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win with my day ones, but then your day one is not making the decisions that are true to the vision.
They're holding you back, actually.
Right? And you don't have enough healthy boundaries and respect for yourself to say, this is where you got to get off the train, because I'm still going that place we said we were agreed to go to.
Right. And people got to grow with you. It's one of those things where it's like, because we're in proximity, or I've known you since the 2nd grade, doesn't mean that we need to remain like this.
Right.
If you're not elevating with me. Like you said, you need those people with you who are on that journey. Like, okay, we're going to the next level.
Right.
The air's a little different up here. Can you breathe up here with us?
Right. Because I don't got time to,
I ain't got time.
let you yada, yada, yada,
Man.
And that's why, like, when you do find the people that are vision aligned like that, you got to hold those people dearly. Because, like, I'm proud. Like, what Dave and I have as literally, being best friends from like 10th, 11th grade.
It's incredible. Actually.
And going on to both make Forbes 30 under 30 the same year, like all that. It's like, that's rare. And it really, thank you, man. It is. And it even humbles me, because it's just like, there's been so many times where certain decisions could have not allowed it to be that. But the thing that has been constant is we've both been faithful to the vision. And that gets ugly sometimes where like, yo, I'm not on my square and he's got to have real convos. Yo, bro, you know, accountability looks like this, yada, yada. And vice versa. And like sometimes people are more loyal to like their friends' emotions than they are to like accountability, right?
Man, look.
So like, you know, that's something that I just think like once you find people who really are tapped in and they're going where you're going, they're willing to commit to growth, you got to cherish those folks because, you know, it can be few and far in between.
And that's powerful, what you said about the whole emotional part, because it's like, because we're boys,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feed into the emotion, but it's like, no, this is the vision we had casted.
Yep.
We focus on this, and we'll work everything else out in between, and it won't always look beautiful. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're going to have our moments where we're bumping heads, but we're focused on the vision, and at
100%.
some point, we'll get realigned. It makes me think about, we did marriage counseling, and it was more so
beautiful.
like, you know, focus on God. You know what I'm saying? You focus on God, y'all will meet at this point. But if you're constantly focusing on the emotions and these different things, it's going to fall apart. If you're focusing on what you want out of this, it's going to fall apart. But if you both can focus right here, we'll meet.
Yeah.
And everything will work out. And I just thought about that when you were saying that, man. That's incredible. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast, bro?
Yes, I've absolutely thought about it. I just for me, it's like to do something like start a podcast, I just have to design the system that like I can just show up and do it and leave. Because like the way my time is set up, it'd be hard to be consistent in that. But it's definitely on my mind.
Right, man. You will have a fire podcast. I just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Because as I'm talking to him, I'm like, man, this dude would be a great podcast host. Word up, like
we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it together.
Yeah, we're gonna work on it. We're gonna get that schedule together. We're gonna line that up because the world needs that. The world needs that. But no, man, I appreciate the time. I don't want to hold you much longer. I just have a few more things. Really quickly, what's next for you? Like, what's next for Rec? What's next for Will?
Yeah. So what's next I'll start with Rec. What's next for Rec is we're expanding. You know, we're expanding the vision. You know, I'm excited to share that. You know, I'm very proud of the success here in Philadelphia. We have officially chosen our next city where we're going to expand the model to. And it's warm there, so I'm excited about that. But what's next for Rec is, one, we want to be able to build the vision of we want spaces around the world for people to be able to convene and have that feeling that we alluded to earlier. But also, we're excited to launch a digital membership because, yes, the space is beautiful and sexy, but we know that our community can commune in a digital space. And there could be young people from Seattle and Oakland and Chicago and all over the map where we can all align and build community together that way. So we're going to do that. So I'm excited for what that looks like. And that'll also have tons of media involved in it and content. And then personally, I'm about to release my first book soon, which is exciting. I'm excited I'm excited to share just what I've been learning over these past few years about how to build a business around your passion, you know, how to, you know, do good, but also doing well and also like doing you know what I mean? That idea of getting paid to be who we are. I learned a lot about that. So I put that in a book. And then also, you know, I want to continue to maximize my visibility, you know, as a personal brand, you know, and get more comfortable in even saying that, you know. I think God has given me a message and a gift, and I want to be respectful to meet him halfway by sharing it as best I can.
I like
you know. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now personally. But all in all, more of the vision, which is to empower creative people to do what they love.
Nice, bro. Nice. It's a different feeling when you're going to hold that book in your hand and realize that other people are receiving it and reading your words.
Yeah.
And that's going to be powerful. I can't wait for that to drop. And then I'm also thinking while you were talking, Rec in the Metaverse.
Right, bro.
Rec in the Metaverse.
Right. That's
going to be fire, meeting that Rec in the Metaverse. I already know that's going to be going down because you're into tech and you're really into...
I'm a nerd, bro.
Yeah, Web3, all of that stuff. And I love it, bro, because the possibilities are endless.
It's a fact.
For what's coming next. And I already know you're on top of it.
I'm ready.
I know you're on top of it. As soon as you drop an NFT,
you already know.
I need that. I'm copping that NFT because I believe in the vision. I need to have that. I need to have that. So real quick, share with just the audience, the people, how can they get in contact with you, learn more about you, socials, all of that.
Cool. Yeah, the best way to keep in touch with me is I'm on Instagram and on Twitter. Both are the same. It's at the Will Toms. So THE Will Toms. Last name is TOMS. TheWillToms.com on the website. And then also I want people to lean in and follow us on the Rec Philly channels, right? Rec Philly on Instagram and on Twitter, Rec Philly _. But yeah, that's it, man. Follow me, tap in, and like for anyone who wants to reach out, one, I am very responsive to Instagram DMs. Like I'll respond to a DM quicker than I will an email. Just is what it is. And then also I should share this too. I just launched a text, John. So like,
oh, nice.
So people can just
That's
shoot me a
sweet.
text as well, so we can get a little bit more intimate, a little bit more direct. And that number is 267. It's still new. No, 215-596-4069.
And we'll make sure to drop that too.
Cool.
We'll add that to the description as well.
Perfect. Thank
That's
you.
fire. I don't remember my text number because I have a text community too. I don't remember.
Really? Yeah. Well, mine is.
But I probably should memorize that.
215-596-4069. Pow.
Nice. Yeah. Make sure y'all tap in with Will. Just doing incredible things, and he's super inspiring. And he's super creative too with the whole Instagram piece and the
Thank you,
reels.
bro.
I was literally before we started this, I'm looking through the reels. I'm like, all right, how can I do this for the page? Like, I'm trying to learn from you.
Thanks, man.
And it's super dope, man. So make sure y'all tap in with them. Really quick, last two things, Will. I have all of my guests bring a quote with them, and this is the quote that you brought. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both correct.
That was my first tattoo.
Really?
Yeah. It's right here.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Nice. Tell me a little bit more about that and why was that so inspirational to you?
Yeah, I think, look, that's the mindset that I think is required to do anything great, And I think one of the biggest gifts that I've been given is the mindset that, again, my G-Ma passed down to me. I grew up in a household where, like, I couldn't say I can't. You know what I mean? That didn't exist. She was like, you can say it's challenging. You can say that you need to learn more to be able to accomplish it, but you can't say you can't, right?
I love the foundation, she said.
And for me, like, I really just like started to live by that, and I realized that, like, yo, if you say you can, you are one step closer to doing, and if you say you can't, you've already disqualified yourself. So at the end of the day, you're right. So you might as well be on the side of empowering yourself.
Right. You might as well. Like, you already know what this side looks like.
Right.
This looks like failure. This looks like letting go of the rope when you're at the top.
Yeah.
Why not see if we can reach the top?
Yeah, and it goes back to the Steve Jobs quote too. Like, Steve Jobs said, everything in this world was created by somebody no smarter than we are. And sometimes it's like we see all these crazy, shiny tools and technology, and we get intimidated as creative people, as people of color, as if we haven't been the most creative, resilient, design thinking, innovative, bootstrapping people since the beginning of time.
Right.
So I always just love to refer myself in that. So I tatted it, and that's my quote, man.
I love that, bro. I love that. One last thing, and this is just a signature question for the show. As you know, the title is Change What We Normalize. So I want to ask you, what does change what we normalize mean to you?
I think change what we normalize to me is about taking a mindful look at the things that we've internalized and have shown up in the world as and doing, and give it a look with intention, and saying, before just accepting what is, let's look at it and saying, but is this what we want? And if it's not, let's change it, And real quick, if I could just add this.
Oh, yeah.
If I could add what I think I would like to add to the world as far as changing what we normalize, it would go back to the thing I said earlier. I want to normalize that success is a team sport, especially for people of color. Group economics is the only way we'll win.
Man, hell of a way to close it out. Powerful conversation, bro. I really appreciate you again tapping in with me, making the time, man. It's a blessing. Before we close out, like I said, as always, y'all know I started this on the season 2 when I got here. It's just a quick prayer, nothing deep, but I believe in just sharing that energy. And prayer is like appreciation and admiration of whoever I get to cross paths with. So I'm constantly praying for people. I'm the guy that's driving past the accident praying.
Yeah.
I'm the dude that's like, somebody put it on Facebook, hey, I need some prayers. I'm actually praying. I'm not just putting the hands. So
Right. You're not saying I'm going to pray for you, and that was the prayer.
I'm not that person. That's not the prayer. I'm actually the person that's like, let me just say a quick prayer, even if it's 2 seconds. So as always, we close out every episode with a brief prayer, and I want to do that with you, so we're going to jump right into it. Father God, I thank you, Lord, for just this opportunity to link up with my brother Will, who is just doing incredible things and really walking in alignment with his purpose. I pray that you would continue to expand his territory, expand the opportunities that he's getting, and that you would place God opportunities in front of him, that you would continue to expand his team, Lord, and that you would bring him peace in his mind as things continue to grow, that he would continue to lean on you, and that you would utilize him as a vessel to impact, inspire, motivate, and be a resource for so many people all around this world. This is just the beginning of where things are going. And we know it's going to get larger because it's in your will. And I know that your purpose for him is massive in this world. And I'm just grateful, Lord, for this opportunity. I pray that we both will remain humble, but at the same time, we will remain hungry while we're here, and that we will touch the lives of so many other individuals, Lord. Continue to use us as vessels for good. And it's in your name, Jesus, that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
My brother.
Appreciate you, Doug.
Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tapping into another episode of the Change What We Normalize podcast. I am your host, Nate. And until next time, love y'all.